My name is Emily, and I am 22 years old. For as long as I can remember, my mom has had this way of making me feel guilty for simply existing. Not in the obvious way where she yells or hits. No, my mom's weapon of choice has always been silence, tears, and one perfectly timed sentence. After everything I have done for you, this is how you treat me. That line has been the soundtrack of my entire life. When I was 14 and wanted to hang out with friends instead of watching my younger siblings, I heard it. When I was 18 and chose a college 2 hours away instead of staying home, I heard it. And last Tuesday, when I told her I was moving into my own apartment, I heard it again, delivered with the kind of wounded expression that could win an Oscar. But this time, something inside me refused to break. This time, I looked her dead in the eye and said the words I had been swallowing for years. Mom, I cannot keep living my life to make up for yours. You should have seen her face. Shock, rage, hurt, all colliding at once like a car crash happening in slow motion. That moment right there is when I realized I was not just moving out of her house. I was moving out of the role she had written for me before I was even old enough to read the script. If you have ever had a parent who loves you and uses you at the same time, stay with me until the end. This is the story of how I finally stopped being my mother's emotional support child and started being my own person. And trust me, the fallout was messier than anything I could have imagined. The day I told my mom I was moving out started like any other suffocating Tuesday. I woke up to 3 missed calls and 7 texts. Can you pick up groceries on your way home? Your brother needs new shoes. The electric bill is due. Did you remember to call the dentist for me? I stared at my phone screen, still groggy, feeling that familiar knot forming in my stomach. I had a full day of classes ahead of me plus a 6-hour shift at the coffee shop, and somehow I was still supposed to be her personal assistant. I typed back a short reply. I will try. Mom, I have a lot today. The response came in seconds. You always have a lot, Emily. But family comes first, remember. There it was again. The gentle reminder that my needs, my time, my energy, they all ranked below hers. I shoved my phone into my bag and got ready for class. By the time I got to campus, I was already exhausted, and the day had barely started. You know that feeling when you are running on fumes, but everyone around you expects you to be a full tank? That was my normal. During my lunch break, I sat in the campus library, staring at an apartment listing I had saved weeks ago. Studio, affordable, available now, 10 minutes from school. Every time I looked at it, my chest tightened with something that felt like hope and fear mixed together. Could I really do this? Could I actually leave? My best friend Jess slid into the chair across from me. You are looking at that apartment again, she said, not even glancing at my screen. She just knew. I sighed. I want to take it, I really do. But every time I think about telling my mom, I feel like I am going to throw up. Jess leaned back, arms crossed. Emily, you are 22, you work, you go to school. You have been taking care of her emotional baggage since you were a kid. When are you allowed to have your own life? I know, I whispered. But she is going to make me feel like the worst daughter in the world. She already does that, Jess said bluntly. At least if you move out, you will have your own space when she does it. The truth of that statement hit me harder than I expected. Jess was right. My mom had a PhD in guilt tripping, and it did not matter what I did. I could give her every ounce of my time and energy, and it would never be enough. There would always be one more thing, one more sacrifice, one more way I was failing her. That evening I went home and found my mom in the living room, surrounded by old photo albums. She did this sometimes, wallowing in the past, usually when she wanted sympathy or attention. Look at this, she said, holding up a picture of me as a little girl, maybe 6 years old, smiling with missing front teeth. You were so happy back then, before you grew up and stopped needing me. I felt the familiar sting of manipulation. She was not reminiscing. She was setting a trap. I still need you, Mom, I said carefully. I just also need my own life. She closed the album with a soft thud. So you are really going to do it? You are really going to abandon me? I took a breath. I found an apartment. I am signing the lease this week. I wanted you to know before I did it. Her face crumpled instantly. Tears filled her eyes and her voice went small and broken. After everything I have sacrificed for you. After I gave up my dreams, my career, my whole life to raise you and your siblings, you are just going to leave me here alone. I felt my heart twist, but I forced myself to stay steady. Adai, you are not alone. You have Jake and Sophie, you have your friends, and I will still be around. I am moving 10 minutes away, not across the country. She shook her head like I had just told her I was moving to Mars. It is not the same. You are the one I can count on. You are the one who understands me. Who is going to help me with everything when you are gone. There it was, the truth beneath all the tears. She did not just want me close because she loved me. She wanted me close because I was useful, because I made her life easier, because I had been trained since childhood to put her needs above my own. Mom, I said slowly, you are going to be okay. You have been an adult a lot longer than I have. You can handle your own bills, your own appointments, your own problems. She stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. Then her expression shifted from hurt to cold. Fine, she said, standing abruptly. If you want to be selfish, go ahead. But do not come crying to me when things get hard and you realize you need your family. I opened my mouth to argue, to explain, to defend myself. Then I stopped. There was no point. She had already decided I was the villain in her story. Nothing I said would change that. I turned and walked to my room, hands shaking, heart pounding. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding my entire life. That night I signed the lease. My hands were still trembling when I clicked submit, but I did it. For the first time in my life, I chose me. And the guilt felt like it was going to swallow me whole. The next few days were a masterclass in emotional warfare. My mom did not yell, she did not argue, she just went silent. She stopped texting me, stopped calling. When I was home, she moved through the house like a ghost, sighing heavily whenever I was nearby, making sure I saw how hurt she was without ever saying a word. It was brutal. Silence has always been her favorite weapon because it forces you to fill the void, to apologize, to fix things even when you did nothing wrong. My younger brother Jake cornered me in the kitchen one morning. Mom's been crying a lot, he said, his tone accusing. I stirred my coffee, refusing to look at him. I know. Then maybe you should not move out, he suggested, as if it were that simple. I cannot keep putting my life on hold for her, Jake. Neither can you, by the way. You are 19. You are going to have to start pulling your weight around here. He scoffed. That is your thing, not mine. I am not the one obsessed with being perfect. That strung more than I wanted to admit. I was not obsessed with being perfect. I had just been forced into a role I never asked for, and now that I was stepping out of it, everyone was acting like I was committing a crime. Moving day came faster than I expected. Jess showed up with her boyfriend's truck, and we loaded my stuff in silence. My mom stayed in her bedroom the entire time, door closed, making sure I knew she was too devastated to even look at me. Sophie, my 16-year-old sister, stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching me carry boxes. You are really doing this, she said quietly. Yeah, I replied, I really am. She bit her lip, and for a second I thought she might say something kind, something supportive. Instead she said, Mom says you do not care about us anymore. I stopped, box in hand, and looked at her. That is not true, and you know it. She shrugged. Then why does it feel like you are running away? Because staying here was killing me, I said, more honestly than I intended. And one day you are going to understand that. She did not respond. She just turned and walked back into her room, closing the door softly behind her. As I drove away from that house for the last time as a resident, I looked in the rearview mirror. The curtains in my mom's bedroom window moved slightly, just enough for me to know she was watching. She wanted me to see her watching. She wanted me to feel the weight of her disappointment following me down the street. I did feel it, but I kept driving anyway. The first night in my new apartment was surreal. The space was small, bare, and quiet, too quiet. I sat on the floor eating takeout straight from the container and my phone buzzed. It was my mom. Hope you are happy now, that was it. No, I love you. No, be safe. Just a passive-aggressive jab designed to make me feel like garbage. I stared at the message for a long time. The old Emily would have called her immediately, apologizing, reassuring her, bending over backward to make her feel better. The new Emily set the phone down and finished her dinner. I was learning something important. You can love someone and still refuse to let them control you. You can miss someone and still know that distance is the healthiest choice. And you can feel guilty without actually being guilty. That night I slept better than I had in years. But the peace did not last long. My mom's next move as calculated and cruel. She started posting on social media. Vague, sad messages about children who forget where they come from, about mothers who give everything and get nothing in return, about family being the most important thing unless you are too selfish to see it. She never mentioned my name. She did not have to, everyone knew. My phone started buzzing with messages from relatives I barely talked to. Your mom is really struggling. Maybe you should check on her. Family is everything, Emily. Do not take it for granted. I wanted to scream. Where were these people when I was drowning in responsibility? When I was the only one making sure bills got paid, groceries got bought, appointments got remembered? They did not care then. But now that I had finally set a boundary, suddenly I was the bad guy. Jess came over that weekend and found me sitting on my apartment floor, scrolling through messages on the verge of a breakdown. Ignore them, she said firmly. They do not know what you have been through. But it feels like the whole world thinks I am a terrible person, I whispered. The whole world is not in your apartment right now, she replied. You are in your apartment, safe, free, living your own life, that is what matters. She was right, but knowing that did not make the guilt any easier to carry. Have you ever set a boundary and then spent weeks questioning if you were justified? Because that is exactly where I was, sitting in the freedom I had fought for but haunted by the voice in my head that sounded exactly like my mother. Maybe you are selfish. Maybe you do not appreciate what she did for you. Maybe you are a bad daughter. It took time, therapy, and a lot of hard conversations with myself to realize something crucial. I was not a bad daughter. I was just done being a parentified child, and my mother's inability to handle that was not my responsibility to fix. The reckoning was coming, and when it finally arrived, it would change everything between us forever. 3 weeks into my new life, I started to feel like I could breathe again. My apartment was small, but it was mine. No one left dishes in the sink expecting me to wash them. No one interrupted my sleep with emergencies that were not actually emergencies. No one made me feel guilty for existing. I had established a routine. Classes in the morning, work in the afternoon, evenings spent studying or watching TV without someone sighing dramatically in the background. It was quiet. It was peaceful, it was everything I had needed, but my mom was not done with me yet. The first real strike came on a Thursday night. I was in the middle of writing a paper when my phone rang. It was Sophie. Her voice was panicked, shaky, younger than her 16 years. Emily, you need to come home right now. My heart dropped. What happened? Is someone hurt? It is Mom. She is in the hospital. They said something about her heart. The world tilted. I grabbed my keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold them. Which hospital? I will be there in 10 minutes. St. Mary's. Please hurry, she is asking for you. I drove faster than I should have, my mind racing through every terrible possibility. A heart attack, a stroke, something fatal. The guilt crashed over me in waves. What if this was my fault? What if the stress of me moving out had caused this? What if she died thinking I hated her? I burst through the emergency room doors, wild-eyed and terrified, and found Sophie in the waiting area. She looked up, her face pale. Where is she? I demanded. They took her back for tests. She collapsed at home. Jake called 911. A nurse appeared and led me to a small room where my mother was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, looking small and fragile. Her eyes were closed, but when I stepped closer, they fluttered open. Emily, she whispered, her voice weak. You came. Of course I came, I said, reaching for her hand. What happened? Are you okay? She squeezed my fingers lightly. The doctor said it might be my heart. They are running tests. I have been so stressed lately. Her eyes found mine, heavy with meaning. So much has changed. I felt the trap closing, but I was too scared to care. Mom, you are going to be fine, just rest. Let them figure out what is going on. She nodded, a single tear sliding down her cheek. I just want my family together. That is all I have ever wanted. I stayed with her for hours. Jake and Sophie eventually went home, but I could not leave. I sat in that uncomfortable plastic chair, holding her hand, watching the monitors beep steadily, feeling the weight of every guilt trip she had ever laid on me pressing down on my chest like a boulder. What if I had been wrong? What if I had been selfish? What if my need for independence had literally broken her heart? Around midnight, a doctor came in, clipboard in hand, expression neutral. We have finished the tests, he said. Your mother is stable. It was not a heart attack. What was it then? I asked, relief flood. Ing through me, looks like a panic attack. A severe one. Her vitals are normal now. We would like to keep her overnight for observation, but she should be fine to go home tomorrow. A panic attack. Not a heart attack, not a stroke. A panic attack. I felt a strange mix of relief and something else. Something I did not want to name yet. Thank you, I said quietly. The doctor nodded and left. I looked at my mom, who suddenly seemed a little less fragile, a little more aware. You are going to be okay, I told her. He said it was a panic attack. She closed her eyes. I was so scared, Emily. I thought I was dying. And all I could think about was how we left things. How angry you have been with me. I have not been angry, I said carefully. I have just been trying to live my own life. She opened her eyes, and there was something sharp in them now, something that did not match the frail voice. It feels the same to me. I went home at 2 a.m. exhausted and confused. Jess called me the next morning and I told her everything. A panic attack, she repeated slowly. Yes. Emily, do you hear yourself? Do I hear myself? What? She took a breath. Your mom had a panic attack and suddenly you are right back in the guilt spiral. You are questioning everything. You are wondering if you were wrong to move out. This is exactly what she wanted. I froze. What are you saying? I am saying that panic attacks are real and scary. But the timing here is awfully convenient. You set a boundary, she could not guilt you back. So now there is a medical emergency and here you are ready to sacrifice yourself all over again. I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend my mom, but something in my gut twisted because Jess was right. The timing was too perfect. The way my mom had looked at me in that hospital bed, weak and wounded, asking for her family to be together. It had felt like manipulation, and I hated myself for thinking that, but I could not stop thinking it. When I picked my mom up from the hospital the next day, she was quiet, subdued. She did not say much on the drive home, just stared out the window like a wounded animal. I helped her inside, made sure she had water and her medication, and told her I would check on her later. As I turned to leave, she spoke. "You are still going back to that apartment, aren't you?" I stopped. "Yes, Mom, I am, even after this, even after you saw what being apart from you is doing to me." I turned around slowly. "Mom, the doctor said you had a panic attack. That is not the same thing as me causing you to have a heart attack." "It feels the same," she said again, and this time her voice had an edge. "You left, I fell apart. That is cause and effect, Emily." The anger I had been swallowing for weeks finally bubbled up. "No," I said firmly, "that is not how this works. You do not get to have a medical episode and then use it as proof that I owe you my entire life." Her face went cold. "So now I am faking being sick. That is what you think of me." I did not say that, but I also did not say I was moving back in. "You are unbelievable," she snapped, all traces of fragility gone now. "I raised you, I sacrificed everything for you, and you cannot even stay close enough to make sure I am okay." "I have been checking on you every day since I moved," I shot back. "I answer your calls, I help when you ask. But I will not move back into a house where I am expected to be your therapist, your assistant, and your emotional punching bag." She stood up, suddenly not looking weak at all. "Get out." "What? Get out of my house? If you care so little about me, then just go. Do not come back here pretending you are doing me some favor by visiting." I stared at her, my heart pounding. "You do not mean that. Try me," she said coldly. I left. I sat in my car outside her house, shaking, tears streaming down my face, and I finally let myself admit the truth. My mother's love had always come with conditions. Be useful, be available, be willing to shrink yourself so she could feel bigger. And the moment I stopped playing that role, the love evaporated. I drove back to my apartment, and this time I did not feel guilty. I felt grief. Grief for the mother I wished I had. Grief for the relationship I had tried so hard to make work. Grief for the little girl inside me who still wanted her mom to just love her without needing something in return. The next 2 weeks were silent. No calls, no texts, nothing. My siblings stopped reaching out too. It was clear my mom had painted me as the villain and they had chosen their side. It hurt more than I expected, but it also clarified something. I had spent 22 years trying to earn love that should have been unconditional, and I was done. Then, on a random Wednesday, my phone rang. It was my mom. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hello." "Emily," she said, and her voice sounded different. Tired, smaller. "We need to talk, okay?" I said carefully, "not over the phone. Can you come over?" I hesitated. If this is another guilt trip, I am hanging up. "It is not," she said quietly. "I promise, just please come." I went. I do not know why, maybe because I still had hope, maybe because I was an idiot, maybe because some part of me would always be that little girl wanting her mom to see her. When I walked in, the house looked different. Cleaner, quieter. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She looked up when I entered and I saw something I had never seen before. "Shame. Sit," she said softly. I sat. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she took a breath. "I talked to a therapist." What? I did not think my mom believed in therapy. After the hospital, they recommended it for the panic attacks. "I have been going twice a week." I did not know what to say. "That is good," I finally managed. She nodded. "It has been hard, really hard." She made me look at things I did not want to see. I waited. "Emily," she said slowly, "I have been using you. For years, I made you responsible for things that were never your job. I made you feel guilty for having your own life. I turned you into my emotional crutch, and I did not even realize I was doing it." My throat tightened. I wanted to say something, but I was afraid if I spoke, I would cry. "The therapist asked me a question," my mom continued. "She asked if Emily never did another thing for you, would you still love her?" And I did not have an answer. A tear rolled down her cheek. I should have had an answer immediately, but I did not. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as my daughter and started seeing you as my solution. And that is not love, that is use. I could not hold it back anymore. I started crying. Quiet, painful tears that I had been holding in for years. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry. I do not know if I can fix this. I do not even know if you will let me try. But I need you to know that you were right about all of it." I wiped my face. "I do not need you to be perfect, Mom. I just need you to see me as a person, not as a tool." "I know," she said, "and I am working on it. It is going to take time, But I want to try if you are willing. I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time I did not see the manipulator, the guilt tripper, the woman who had weaponized her pain. I saw someone broken trying to put herself back together. I am willing, I said quietly. But I am not moving back. She nodded. I know, and I am not asking you to. I just want a chance to be your mom, not your burden. We sat there for a while, two broken people trying to figure out how to rebuild something that had been shattered. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was no music, no perfect reconciliation, no magical moment where everything was suddenly okay. But it was a start. Over the next few months, things changed slowly. My mom went to therapy. I went to therapy. We started having coffee once a week, neutral territory, no expectations. She stopped calling me with emergencies that were not emergencies. She started asking about my life instead of just venting about hers. She apologized more than once. And slowly, painfully, we started building a new relationship, one where I was her daughter, not her caretaker. Jake and Sophie took longer to come around. They had grown comfortable with me being the responsible one, and my absence forced them to grow up in ways they resented. But eventually they started to see it too. The way our family had been running was not normal, and it was not fair. My mom started teaching them things she should have taught them years ago: how to manage money, how to do laundry, how to handle their own problems instead of expecting someone else to fix them. It was messy. There were setbacks. There were days when my mom slipped back into old patterns, and I had to remind her firmly where my boundaries were. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a mother who was trying. Not a mother who was perfect, just one who was trying. One night about 6 months after I moved out, my mom called me. Not with a crisis, just to talk. How are you doing? She asked. I am good, I said. Really good, actually. That is all I want, she said softly, for you to be good. We talked for a while about nothing important. School, work, a funny thing that happened at the grocery store, normal stuff. When we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment and realized something. I did not feel guilty anymore. I felt free. And I felt loved, not the conditional, transactional love I had grown up with, but something new, something healthier. It was not perfect, but it was real. If you are watching this and you feel trapped by a parent who uses guilt as control, let me tell you something important. You are not responsible for their happiness. You are not a bad person for wanting your own life. And you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, even if that someone is your mom. It took me 22 years to learn that. And walking away. Why setting boundaries, refusing to be manipulated? That was not cruelty, it was survival. Some parents love you and need you in healthy ways. Others love you and use you without even realizing it. If you are in the second situation, you have to decide. Do you keep sacrificing yourself hoping they will change? Or do you choose yourself, even if it means breaking their heart for a while to save your own? I chose myself, and it was the hardest, best decision I have ever made. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to set boundaries with a parent who made you feel guilty for simply wanting your own life? What did you do? How did it turn out? Because I promise you, you are not alone in this, and you are not wrong for wanting to be free.